Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You will hear two colleagues, Marcus and Ella, discussing details about the coming office party. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Okay, Ella. As you know, you and I have to make the big decision about in which restaurant we are going to hold our office celebration.
Well, we're celebrating 20 years of operation, so I think it has to be a good restaurant, something which will really impress people and make them think better of the company.
The company will be celebrating 20 years of operation, so 20 has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Okay, Ella. As you know, you and I have to make the big decision about in which restaurant we are going to hold our office celebration.
Well, we're celebrating 20 years of operation, so I think it has to be a good restaurant, something which will really impress people and make them think better of the company.
We do have a budget, though. It's how much?
$2,000, and that should be enough for a good meal.
Actually, it's $3,000, not $2,000. I confirmed that today.
That should be enough for a great meal then.
Well, this is a significant milestone, so should we go for a buffet meal at a local hotel? All you can eat? Something like that?
The Chesterfield Hotel has good food. I've eaten there before. Very impressive.
Yes, I've got the brochure here. Do you know how much it costs? The full buffet banquet is beyond us, I'm afraid.
Yes, but we don't have to get the banquet. They have set meals for cheaper prices. Show me the brochure. What about this? Set meals C is $50 a head, and that's just within our price range. It includes a main meal with prawns, and there's other seafood as well. Look, there's even a seafood platter with crabs, oysters, everything you like.
But not everyone likes seafood. Let me see the brochure. Actually, set meal D looks better to me. More meat-based.
How much is it?
Meal A is $70, B is $60, and so on. So D is even cheaper at $45.
OK, and we could spend the money we save on other things, such as a lottery present or something.
The main meal is lamb, and everyone likes that, right? It comes with soup, dessert, coffee, all the frills that you'd expect.
What's the soup?
Actually, all the meals come with soup. Meal A is lobster soup, B is prawn, C is clam, but ours is chicken.
Ah, I like that. Chicken is simple but tasty. All those seafood soups are not nearly as nice.
So, why don't we take meal D then?
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
All right, we've picked the restaurant and meal for this celebration, so that just leaves the time and date to be decided.
We need to do it soon. This month is the 20th anniversary, so what about the 14th?
14th? But wouldn't it be better to do it after the end of quarter reports are handed in? That way everyone will feel more relaxed. That's the 18th, after the middle of the month.
Good thinking. That's why you're the office manager and I'm not.
And that leaves the starting time. After work, but not too late, right?
Well, any time is fine, I should think. 7 p.m, 7:30, 8 p.m. Does it really matter?
Not too late, though. 8 p.m. is too late. 7 p.m. might be too early for those submitting the end-of-day accounts.
Split the difference then, take the middle time. That will please everyone.
Sounds fine by me. Let's do that then. Now, that leaves the minor details, about clothes and what to bring and...
Clothes? Isn't this an informal event?
Yes, but it is an anniversary and we don't want people in jeans and jogging shoes. We don't necessarily want formal dress either.
I agree. Formal is too, formal. Smart casual is better. Let's just say smart casual, okay?
Okay, and should we allow smoking?
Isn't that the hotel's decision? Do they allow smoking?
They do, in designated areas well away from the eating tables.
Personally, I hate smoking and would like to ban it completely from this function, but to be reasonable, I think we can just follow the hotel's policy. If they allow it, so can we.
Okay, that sounds fine. That just leaves...
Whether the guests should bring anything with them? I think it would be a nice idea if everyone bought a...
Let me guess, a card, right? A getting to know you card.
No, a present, a small present, of course, to be put into a large box, and then everyone can reach inside and pull out something. A lucky dip. That should be a good laugh, don't you think?
Great idea.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. Section 2. You will hear a hospital administrator telling some visitors about the hospital where she works. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 17. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 17.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Stanford Hospital, one of the more progressive hospitals in the Greater Southern Health District. Now, one of the ways we have achieved our high status is through implementing certain rules that you may not necessarily find in other centres of care. One of the most important is washing hands. Everyone who enters this hospital must wash their hands. We have signs indicating this and special sinks installed to allow visitors to follow this rule. Did you know that the majority of lethal viruses and bacteria are actually brought in by visitors? And sick people, of course, are very susceptible to such bugs. Thus, the washing hands rule is especially important in certain wards. These have the standard sink near the entrance door and also a bottle of disinfectant spray. So, in addition to washing your hands there, you are expected to spray them as well to kill any bugs that might remain. Annoying? Keep in mind that people have died from infections brought in by visitors, and newborn babies are particularly vulnerable in this respect. This is why the special care nursery definitely uses this system. Annoying? Not at all. Merely a necessity for a responsible hospital, and every new mother will thank you for it. Now, and on this same theme, Most hospitals allow an unlimited number of visitors, 4, 5, 6, but remember, any one of them could be carrying colds or other viruses. For this reason, at the Stanford Hospital, we limit visitor numbers to 3, and we are quite strict about this. Again, if you find it annoying, remember that it's for the good of all the patients, and it's what makes our hospital one of the best. To help keep control of this, all visitors must enter through the visitor gate, and there is a guard to tally up numbers and ensure that this rule is being followed. Now, the smoking policy. Most hospitals allow some sort of smoking somewhere on the premises, but here at Stanford, we believe that tolerating this habit at any time, in any place, is contrary to good health and the ethos of care. Consequently, we have a blanket ban. Smoking on the premises or immediate vicinity is banned completely. We are aware that such rules are often ignored, not only in hospitals but also in many public buildings. Well, we take this rule so seriously that we have undertaken preventative measures. Smoke detectors are in place. We have many video cameras installed, and if people break this rule, or any others, security will be alerted. But we're sure that won't happen once people understand that at Stanford, our goal is to be the very best hospital in the world.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 18 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 18 to 20.
Now, after having given you all those Stanford Hospital rules today, let me move on to a brief history of the place. It first opened in 1955, when it was known as the Southern General Hospital. It ran under this name until the 1980s, after which it changed to the present name and was enlarged with the addition of 2 buildings, the Matheson Building and the Western Wing, although it was the second of these which first began operations in 1984, leaving the Matheson Building to open 1 year later, and other extensions such as the rear annex to appear only in recent times. The Matheson Building housed the maternity wards, while the Western Wing was for infectious diseases, and they still have those functions today. An interesting event was the fire which broke out just after the rear annex was constructed. It was found that some faulty wiring linked to the main transformer caused the fire, starting in the central building, spreading out to the medical library, Western Wing, and the pediatric section. Fortunately, no lives were lost, although the damage bill was considerable. Apart from that, it's been pretty much plain sailing for the hospital, allowing it to gain the high regard in which it is held today. Now, do you have any questions?
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. You will hear 2 teachers talking about the work experience program for their students. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
OK, we've got to arrange this programme.
Work experience. I believe quite strongly in this myself. Studies are often just too theoretical and the best learning can be on-site.
Sure, in principle, but you've got to find the right companies. For business students, it's so easy with all the commercial enterprises around here, but for our lot of engineering students, it's not so easy at all. Last year's education students were easy too. We just put them all into schools.
Well, there are a few companies that will accept our students. Building sites are the main avenue to explore, but the trouble is that not many of these places want inexperienced learners around.
Why not?
Last year when I did this, I think these companies were worried about accidents. Now it's more a time issue. They just don't want to train people.
But these people work for free.
But training takes time, and in the economic recession, few companies want their personnel diverted for such purposes. But I did find some companies, enough for us at least, but they all insist on one thing.
Minimum work time of 1 month, right?
No, that the students are appropriately insured. Remember, these are building sites and there are quite a few hazards there, and we're putting untrained students, not trained students, right amongst them. So these companies want financial coverage in case of accidents.
Gee, is that going to be expensive?
Yes, I'm afraid so, since we live in quite a litigious society. Consequently, insurance rates are sky high, almost unaffordable.
I see. Can our budget meet this? Last year we couldn't pay for the programme.
This year we can, since we have fewer students to deal with, but we'll nevertheless have to cut corners in certain areas.
I never like it when that happens.
Neither do I.
In which areas do we need to economise?
Well, the payment to students is not going to change. After all, they won't do this work unless they can get some money. We'll also continue to subsidise their travel as we did last year.
Last year we gave them a completion bonus too. It was a big success. Made them go through the whole month.
But not this year. We'll impress upon the students that possible failure could result if they don't finish the whole term.
OK, I trust that will work.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
The most important issue for me about this work experience programme is which companies are getting involved, and that was your job. What companies did you find?
Right, 4 companies are prepared to help out. Hepplewhite Distilleries, AJ & Sons Engineering, Johnson Demolition, and Sansoni Security.
How many students can they take?
Hepplewhite can take 6.
6.
Sorry, 5. It's limited at the moment by the winter, since beer drinking is lower around this time. As for AJ & Sons, that would be 7.
Last year it was 17.
Not this year, I'm afraid. The other 2 places are 6 and 6, which makes up everyone, 24 of them.
Right. What about starting dates?
That's the problem. They cannot all start and finish on the same date, which makes this a little hard to dovetail with the academic semester. Hepplewhite can accept its cohort around August 15th. AJ are a little later, starting 5 days later, in fact.
The 20th.
Actually, the 21st is what they said.
And the other 2?
The demolition company can start earlier, the start of the month, the 1st, and the security firm will start 3 days later on the 4th.
OK, that sounds good. And will all our students work for 1 month?
Well, remember, it doesn't have to be a full month. but just long enough to meet syllabus requirements.
So, how long is Hepplewhite going to use these students?
They said 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks if we want it.
We want it. Tell them the longer option is necessary.
Sure. I think they'll accept that. The students will probably buy some of their product, which will make the owners happy. As for the engineering company, it's giving 24 days.
That's fine. And the demolition company?
They're saying 2 weeks, 14 days.
Impossible. The students can't complete their projects in such a short time. You'll have to be stronger. Tell them minimum 18 days.
All right. The owner seems reasonable. He'll probably accommodate us if I throw in a few incentives. That leaves the security company, which is offering...
Let me guess. 3 weeks, 21 days.
Almost 22.
Ha! I was close with my guess of 21.
Just 1 day off.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear a lecturer discussing the possibility of creating nuclear fusion. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 35. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 35.
We look at the sun, a huge ball streaming out essentially limitless energy into space, and we think about how we need that energy here on Earth. Our oil reserves are running out, coal burning causes much pollution, and nuclear energy has many dangers. But where does the sun itself get its energy? The answer is that the sun makes it using fusion, or, more specifically, in a hydrogen fusion process. There is no pollution, no radioactivity, no waste products, and we have plenty of hydrogen. So, hydrogen fusion seems the perfect answer to our energy needs, and scientists have long attempted to achieve it here on Earth. So what happens during this process? The first step is to make 2 light atomic particles approach. In the case of our sun, these are hydrogen particles, the lightest and also the easiest to deal with. However, the problem is that the nuclei of atoms have electric fields, and fusion between these particles is opposed by their similar electric charge. They most naturally repel each other, and the nuclei of all elements are exactly the same in this respect. Thus, in order to overcome this repulsion and force them together, in the second step, the particles are heated. The trouble is, you need a lot of heat, incredible temperatures of the sort only seen on the surface of the sun. This is many millions of degrees, far higher than the melting point of any known material. Still, the concept is simple. The hot, wildly moving particles, which are now called plasma, will crash into each other, resulting in the third step, the fusion into helium, which releases energy and begins a self-sustained process.
Before you hear the rest of the lecture, you have some time to look at questions 36 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 36 to 40.
So, we know how fusion works. Thus, the big question is, can we create it here on Earth? We actually have the technology to superheat hydrogen into plasma, but no container on Earth can deal with those temperatures. Thus, we need to confine this superheated material so that it doesn't touch anything. For that, we need a special reactor, and most research has focused on an apparatus known as a tokamak system. That's Tokamak, an acronym from some Russian words meaning toroidal chamber with magnetic field. It's an apt name, since a very powerful magnetic field is used to confine and suspend the super hot plasma in the air so that it doesn't touch anything. This is possible only because this plasma has an electric charge, which interacts with the magnetic field. Of course, the walls of the fusion vessel will still get hot, very hot, and to avoid being melted, they must be cooled with a cryogenic system to intensely low temperatures. But now we are faced with the second problem. If we are to draw power from this system, the reaction must be continuous and controllable. However, when fusion begins, the plasma becomes unstable, and at these temperatures, that is a very serious situation. If we lose control, a disaster could result. Despite the obstacles, in 2010, a European device managed some success, but needed far more power to generate the fusion reaction than that produced from the fusion itself. Obviously then, it was not useful as a power source. More to the point, this system could only sustain a fusion reaction for a fraction of a second, yet, to self-sustain, the fusion needs to run for at least 10 seconds. And the future looks bleak. Unfortunately, most scientists predict that many decades will have to pass before fusion power can become a practical reality.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.